back to the Gridiron Expert. We're continuing our ACC football predictions today, and our next team saw their streak of 9 straight bowl games get snapped, but upset Miami in the season finale and are looking to carry that momentum into the 2018 season. They are the Pittsburgh Panthers. Pittsburgh had a roller coaster season last year. After opening the season with an overtime win over Youngstown State, they lost 5 of their next 6 games, but actually had 4 wins with 3 weeks left to play in the season. We all know that they upset Miami in the season finale, one of the bigger upsets of the college football year. So they had 5 wins, but those 2 games prior to the Miami game, they lost to North Carolina by 3, Virginia Tech by 6, and earlier in the year lost to Syracuse by 3. So had they just won one of those games, they would have been at least 6-6 and would have not have seen their 9-game bowl streak end last season. So this Pittsburgh team was actually a lot better than their record indicated, and they definitely have some talent this year to get back to a bowl game and start their new bowl streak. But it's going to be tough. They have a tough schedule. They only return 13 starters, and that only includes 4 on the offensive side of the ball. So they bring back Kenny Pickett, who was the starter in that Miami game last season, so it gives them a little stability at that position. They returned Darren Hall at running back, the leading rusher from last year, but only returned 2 offensive linemen. So that doesn't give me a lot of hope that Kenny Pickett's going to have enough protection and to be able to stay in the pocket and make some throws, but hopefully they will be able to work things out and he'll do better than we expect. And obviously he has plenty of talent there. 9 returning starters on the defensive side of the ball, though, and that's where Pittsburgh's going to have their strength this year. The defensive line is going to be probably the biggest strength out of the defensive line, linebackers, and secondary. They're going to be led by Dwayne Hendricks, Shane Roy, and Rashad Weaver along that defensive line, but the linebackers are also going to be heavily senior-led as well. So this Pittsburgh defense is certainly going to be tough for a lot of their ACC opponents and probably going to be the difference maker to get them to a bowl game and win some of these close games that they just weren't able to get last year. So they open the season against Albany, which should be an easy win for them. Hopefully won't take this game to overtime like they did with their last FCS opponent. And this is obviously, like I said, all these FCS opponents are a good way to see kind of how your team looks before you start playing tougher opponents, such as Penn State, who, yes, Pittsburgh did beat just 2 years ago, and in my opinion was the game that kept Penn State out of the college football playoff. If you can remember, the Nittany Lions ended up winning the Big Ten championship that year. And this year they host Penn State, so this is a big chance for Pittsburgh to show they're back, that they have the talent there. But Penn State, despite losing Saquon Barkley and a couple other big-time playmakers, I just don't see them losing this game against a young Pittsburgh offense. This Penn State offense is still going to be fairly dominant, but maybe they can get shut down a little bit by the Panther defense. Home field advantage certainly plays a role for them. But I don't see Penn State losing this game, despite losing Barkley, despite losing some big-time playmakers on defense. James Franklin's going to have his team competing in the Big Ten still, and I think Pittsburgh loses this game to the Nittany Lions. And then they get a big ACC matchup in just in Week 3 against Georgia Tech. And this is a big-time game, and I mentioned this in my Georgia Tech video, that the winner of this game is going to be set up for more success to get to a bowl game than maybe the other. This is a big-time game in the Coastal Division that's going to affect the standings, but affect which team can get to a bowl game. And I like Pittsburgh in this game. I think that defense is going to be able to shut down that spread option that we all know Georgia Tech likes to run. I think they're going to be able to bottle that up this season, and I think that the offense led by Kenny Pickett, he's got 2 games under his belt, one against a solid Penn State team. I think this could maybe be his big coming-out game for the 2018 season. Puts up some good numbers against a Georgia Tech secondary that I don't have a lot of faith in. So a big-time win for Pittsburgh, and they are 2-1 going into North Carolina on the road. And if you remember, Pittsburgh only lost to North Carolina by 3. I believe that game was on a Thursday night or something like that. And this North Carolina team was pretty horrendous last year. Went 3-9. So the fact North Carolina was able to get that win on the road last year was really big for them. They had a lot of injuries, a lot of unknowns. It was a young team. But they're going to be much more experienced and much better this year as long as they can stay healthy. This North Carolina team has their quarterback in Chaz Surratt. They have a solid defense with 8 returning starters there. So I could certainly see this team with 2 young quarterbacks in Pickett and Surratt being a defensive battle. I could see this very strong Pittsburgh defense and this very strong North Carolina defense going at it and making it a very low-scoring game. In the end, though, I think home field advantage and a better offense wins out with North Carolina, and I think the Tar Heels get a win at home, getting in Pittsburgh another loss there. 2-2 going into Central Florida, the national champions, right? I keep saying that. It's always fun to talk about, always sparks some good debate. But this game being on the road, they're not going to have a bit of a letdown season like some would expect. Yes, they lost Scott Frost to go take the job at Nebraska, but they still returned Mackenzie Milton, one of the better quarterbacks in the entire nation last year, and they bring in Josh Heupel, the offensive coordinator from Missouri. So you can't really expect offensive production to drop this year. They still return some very solid players there. Dedrick Snelson, the number 2 leading wide receiver for the Knights last year, he's also back, so that will be one of Mackenzie Milton's big-time targets there. And they also have a pretty strong secondary as well. So if Kenny Pickett struggles, I can see Central Florida maybe creating some turnover and converting off of those turnovers if they commit them. It's on the road. It's a tough offense. This is going to be a big-time test for this Pittsburgh defense. But I'm actually going to give the win to Central Florida. I like the Central Florida team. I think they're the heavy favorite in the American Athletic once again. And despite losing some big-time players on both sides of the ball and their head coach, I think they get a big-time win over a Power 5 opponent and defeat the Panthers. Now, Syracuse, another team that Pittsburgh just narrowly lost to last year on the road by 3 points. I think they get the revenge on the Orange this year. I like Dino Babers. I like his type of offense. I like Eric Dungey. I like Dante Strickland. So I like this Orange team, and I hope they get back to a bowl game because I have a lot of respect for Babers, what he did over at Eastern Illinois, and what he could potentially do with the Orange this year. But it is at Pittsburgh, and this defense, I think, is going to shut down the Syracuse offense. And the Syracuse defense, I don't have a whole lot of faith in. They should be better, but I think Pittsburgh finally puts up some big numbers here and gets a big-time home win over the Orange there. And then on the road at Notre Dame, a very tough opponent there. A Notre Dame team that will certainly be competing, I think, for the college football playoff. Brandon Wimbush at quarterback. I liked him last year. A lot of people didn't. He completed less than 50% of his passes. So what? He's still a dual-threat quarterback. And I think under Brian Kelly, he has progressed over this offseason, should put up some decent numbers this year. And their defense, also like Pittsburgh, returns 9 starters and will be extremely strong as well. But a lot of factors are pointing up for Notre Dame in this game to their benefit. They have a home field advantage. I think they have a better offense. And so while Pittsburgh might have a solid defense, I think Notre Dame's going to shut down Pittsburgh's offense. And I think the Fighting Irish get a win at home, so another loss for Pittsburgh there. They need a much-needed bye week here. They've only got 3 wins, and they're 3-4 going into the bye week. So they really need to pick up the pace if they want to get to a bowl game. And they get Duke coming out of the bye week, and that's going to be a big-time game for them. So I think this Georgia Tech game and the Duke game are big for Pittsburgh here. A Duke team that I like this year, one that I think could surprise some people in the Coastal Division. You've got David Cutcliffe, you've got Daniel Jones, you've got plenty of senior wide receivers there and another solid offensive line. So this Duke team has lots and lots of talent. But I think Pittsburgh gets a big-time win here. I'm going to give them credit for home field advantage and coming off the bye. They're going to be rested. They're going to be in a new gear knowing, hey, we've only got 3 wins. We've got to win 3 more. Look who else we've got to play. We need a win. So I think they come out of the bye week fired up. I think the defense shuts down Duke's pretty potent offense. I think they get a big-time win at home. And that'll get them back to 500 at 4-4. And I'll do you one even better. I think that they win on the road at Virginia as well. I think Virginia is really going to struggle this year. They did a great job last year with Kurt Benkert, Bronco Mendenhall coming in just year 2 and getting them back to a bowl game for I think the first time since 2013 or 2011, one of those, I can't remember. But this Virginia team is going to struggle. I don't see them competing for a bowl game this year. They don't have a quarterback. They're not going to have a strong offense. The defense will be strong. Maybe they can upset Pittsburgh with it being at home. I don't see it. So I think Pittsburgh wins back-to-back games, gets above 500. So now they are 5-4 and only need 1 more win to get to a bowl game. And the question is, can they get it with 2 of those being on the road against very, very solid offenses, very solid teams? Virginia Tech first, though. They only lost by 6 to Virginia Tech on the road last year, and I think that was a better Virginia Tech team last year than it's going to be this year. They'll still be solid as always under Justin Fuente, but I think last year's team was better. But I'm going to give Virginia Tech the edge because of their quarterback and because of a Bud Foster defense. Virginia Tech, I don't think we'll have bowl eligibility by this point. They might. This could get that for them. So they're going to be fired up. So this could be a game where the winner clinches bowl eligibility. But despite it being at home, I think Virginia Tech is just going to have too much talent on both sides of the ball. And I think they get a big-time win on the road over the Panthers. Then on the road at Wake Forest, on the road at Miami. So that's not very beneficial for the Panthers here in their quest for bowl eligibility. Wake Forest loses John Walford at quarterback, a guy that I really liked last year, the 3rd leading passer, I believe, in Wake Forest history. So putting up some big numbers there. But they bring in Kendall Hinton, who is still a very capable quarterback, still an explosive offense, and a still solid defense. Wake Forest is one of those teams in the ACC that usually flies under the radar, never really in consideration for an ACC title with teams like Clemson and Florida State and guys like that. But could fly under the radar. It is on the road, and I like the Demon Deacons in this one. I just don't see Pittsburgh going on the road and playing a Wake Forest team that is still going to be solid after the year they had last year. So, a loss there, and then Miami, the big showdown with Miami. The only thing I can say is lightning usually doesn't strike twice. So I don't see Pittsburgh going on the road here and upsetting the Hurricanes. Last year, it was amazing that they beat the Hurricanes by 10, and really I think it was the end of Miami's hopes. I think that played such a huge mental role for them in the ACC championship game. They had a chance to finish the regular season undefeated and weren't able to get the job done. This Miami team is more improved, much better on both sides of the ball, and you got to throw in the revenge factor. They lost by 10 last year in the regular season finale. They were number 2 in the nation. It was embarrassing. They lost to a 4-win Pittsburgh team. This year it's at home. This year the defense is strong. I think Kenny Pickett has a pretty bad day here, and I think Miami gets a big-time win here. So that's going to give Pittsburgh a 5-7 record on the year, just like they had last year. So I know a lot of people will be disappointed with that. They'll be upset having back-to-back 5-7 seasons, and they think that Pittsburgh should get back to a bowl game. And I will say this, if they're going to get back to a bowl game, their best chances of victories are going to probably be at Central Florida and Virginia Tech at home. I think those are the 2 games that I think could maybe go the Panthers' way to get to a 6-6 record or better. But everything else, though, I don't feel a whole lot very confident in giving Pittsburgh a win there, giving them the benefit of the doubt. But I think maybe they can get the win over Central Florida on the road. Maybe they could get the win at home over Virginia Tech, a team they actually hung with last year. So it would not surprise me to see Pittsburgh get to a 6-6 record, a 7-5 record. But right now, the defense is going to be their strength. Hopefully the offense can pick things up. The quarterback's the most important position on the team, but does not always make a team. So he's got to have some surrounding cast members around him. But I'm very curious to see how the Panthers do this year. I hope they get back to a bowl. We're going to start a new bowl streak, but we'll have to wait and see. But right now, have them falling just short at 5-7. So as always, please go check us out on Twitter at Gridiron Expert, on Instagram at The Gridiron Expert, and always here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.